In this week's brand new episode of Hill Climb Monsters in Project Cars 2, we're taming a monster as the recently released Porsche 917/10 takes on a Zero Coast hill climb course. Can this 1,000 brake horsepower beast dethrone the Jaguar? Let's find out. What's going on, guys? My name's Matilio and welcome back to Project Cars 2 and a brand new episode of Hill Climb Monsters. And this week, as you can see, the car we have chosen, well I have chosen, is the Porsche 917/10. Now this car was of course recently released via the Porsche Legends DLC, and I had a bit of a go with it when I did the DLC videos for the release of it, and it's a scary car. It really is a scary car, and there's quite a bit to go through. So we're going to take a look at the stats first of all. So as you would imagine, they're pretty staggering. Powered by a flat 12 engine, it's got a 4-speed H pattern shifter, which is producing a whopping 1,000 brake horsepower. What I think is 1,000 brake horsepower at 100% boost. Which I was running it on. I was running it at 100% boost. All that is good enough to power it from 0 to 60 in just over 2 seconds at a top speed of 220 miles an hour. Relatively light at just over 1,800 pounds. So yeah, no traction control, stability control, or any of that nonsense as you would imagine from a car like this. And yeah, it is an absolute beast. It's a monster. It really is. In terms of setup, I tried the main thing I was trying to do was to try and get some more feeling in the front end. It was very understeery through the slow speed corners, and it made things very difficult to, like, trying to get this thing through a slow corner. It's like trying to shift the wardrobe up a flight of stairs. It's that difficult. You're turning the wheel and nothing's happening. You know, you're having to slow right down, and it just kills all your momentum. I also, because I wanted to run, and I was adamant I wanted to run at 100% boost, I did play around with the rear differential just to kind of calm it down a little bit, and make it a little bit more manageable. I guess is the way you could say it, because as you would imagine, with two massive turbochargers pushing out 1,000 brake horsepower, you're going to have a hell of a lot of kick through first and second gear. So it was just about trying to make it a bit more manageable, and you know, hopefully just taming it to the point where it wouldn't kill me or attempt to every time I tried to get out of a slow speed corner. I also fiddled around with the downforce. I was running pretty much max at the front, so you know, full 4 clicks at the front. I did go 10 at the back initially, then I went down to 8, and then I settled on 9 because 10 was too much. It was creating too much understeer. 8 wasn't enough. It was making the rear end too, you know, squirmy. So settled on 9. Other things, you know, just like I think I mentioned it when I did the actual DLC videos. I think I wound the brake bias back a little bit because it is prone to locking, and you know, also, you know, fiddled around with the bias as well. I had to go 50-50 bias. We don't see that very often. Sometimes you're more angled towards the front of the car. Very rarely you find yourself angled towards the rear. But this I went 50-50 just to get that balance in the brakes where it wasn't locking the fronts up, or even worse, locking the rears up. So yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head what I did with the differential, but I did try a few settings and it seemed to work. It seemed to make it a little bit calmer while still delivering the amount of power that I wanted. As you would imagine, though, there were a few accidents here and there, and yeah, it's an absolute monster. This is without question the most difficult car I've driven in this series. It really is. It is so hard to get a decent run in, or actually complete a run. Because I'll be honest with you, the run that you're going to see in a few moments was the only one I completed in that 1 hour. I couldn't. You've got to be so precise and so in tune with the car, because otherwise it'll bite your hand off. If you relax for a second, it will bite you. So yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the current leaderboard, the current standings, as you can see, and it's still a case that the Jaguar is on top with a 6:26 time. I'm not quite sure what this thing should be aiming for. We've got the other Porsche there, the Porsche 935, which potentially it could aim for, but this is the only Can-Am car in the game, so there's not really anything we can really properly put it up against, but I think this thing should be aiming for top 5. So yeah, what we're going to do now is we are going to take a look at the run and see how the Porsche 917/10 got on. Okay then guys, here we go. Porsche 917/10 on our Azure Coast Hill Climb course, and yeah, this was, as I mentioned, the only run that I managed to put together because this car is so tough to drive. And I don't know, maybe someone who's better at setting a car up could probably get more out of it, but I found this thing so tough to drive and so tough to find the sweet spot. The slow speed corners that you see there through traffic cone corner, trash can corner, that was just so difficult. You've got to really hit your marks with your braking. And coming down towards the magic roundabout, you have to go around the roundabout, because if you get on that bump on the inside a bit too abruptly, it will spit you off into the bollards on the right hand side, and also just completely wreck the front left suspension. So it was a complete no-no there. And like I said, this thing is an absolute monster. You're going to see now as we get onto the Happy Highway just how it gathers speed. It's just absolute lightning. This is by far and away the fastest car we've had down the Happy Highway. Before we even get to the crest here, it is over 200 miles an hour, and by the time we get down to traffic cone corner, it hits at 215 miles an hour, and through traffic cone corner as well. Absolutely sublime. The quickest car, I think it's definitely on par with the Jaguar at the very least, or possibly even the quickest. But that kind of tells you the story about the car. It's so good through the fast and the high speed corners, but when you start to, you know, lose that the air over the car as you slow down, and you lose downforce, that's where it really starts to struggle. It doesn't feel like it has a whole lot of mechanical grip. It is a short wheelbase, which normally does help in that regard, I believe. But you know, like I said, it's just this thing is properly at home going full tilt through fast speed corners. If you get on a slow speed corner, like I said, it's like trying to shift the wardrobe up a flight of stairs. It's just so difficult to get around the corner. And while it seems like I may be tiptoeing, and I was a little bit, this is just as much as I dared push it. You push it anymore, like I said, it will bite you. And as we come down to Jay's May corner, this was another tricky corner, not just so much getting through the corner, but getting out of it as well, because through first and second gear, that's where the vast majority of that boost is going to come in from those two massive turbochargers. And like I said, if you try and go full throttle straight out the corner, then it's just going to spit you off. It's not going to have it. But coming into Silver Spoon Village, this was a very difficult area. Try to get the power down, try to settle the car, because a lot of the acceleration zones are on curves, so it's very easy to drop the car. It was also difficult through McDanger curve, but onto Outrun, you saw there we were going fully sideways almost, with power sliding through that corner. But through Fraggle Rock corner, and I don't know, maybe I could have taken that in third. There was a couple of times I took it in third, a couple of times I took it in second. It felt right to take it in second at that particular point. I never really did settle on it. But sometimes through some of the runs I wasn't even getting this far. I was having accidents way back down the road. But going through Bridge Corner and up towards the entrance of the Munger McRae Hill Complex, and this was the Achilles heel for this. While I'm not sure if it was to do with an update or whether it's just the car itself, it wasn't too bad over the jumps and the bumps. It was just you know, these slow speed corners, and the fact that a lot of the corners, the exits, they're curved, and you really hesitate to get the power down because you're so wary of that boost kicking in. And me especially, because like I said, I was running 100% boost. I was adamant I wanted to do that from the start when I decided to do this car, and you just got to be so careful. Like I said, through here, even you want to get on the throttle through that corner, but it's you're so wary. You don't want to ruin the run, so you do start driving maybe a little bit within yourself through this part of the circuit. But going through Mirage 1 and 2, again, not too bad, but like I said, it's just difficult to get it settled. And again, in the acceleration zone here, because it's on a curve, you have to be very gentle with it. Down the pogo stick straight, This thing got some pretty good air actually. Didn't want to pitch itself upwards and into oblivion, which is good. So I think that maybe comes down to the massive front and rear wing, just keeping it relatively planted. But coming down onto the end of the second sector, and this is another area it struggled over this jump here because you don't take it necessarily straight onwards. You take it, you know, almost at an angle. It really unsettled the car, and it really wasn't happy with it. But onto the Great Ocean Highway and down towards the end of Sector 2. I'm not going to tell you the time. But I definitely was down on some of the other cars in the list through that sector because, like I said, you're just having to tiptoe so much. And even through here, I was having to tiptoe. That's why I got up to 4th gear rather quickly, because there was a couple of occasions where I was doing pretty well up until that point. In 3rd gear, twin through that corner, I'd lose it completely. But onto the viaduct straight again, you're just going to see how this thing picks up speed, and we have to scrub a little bit off before we come through down into here. And like I said, it wasn't too bad through here. It wasn't too bad through Deception. I thought with it being a bit understeery that it would catch it out, but it wasn't too bad actually. You tagged the barrier a little bit on the inside there, I think, but away we go again. And on to sweeps now. It wasn't the best car, but it you know, in the same measure, it wasn't the worst car either. It was pretty good. I took most of it in 2nd gear because I didn't want to get up to 3rd, because I think that'd probably just be a bit too much for it, because these corners are, you know, they're relatively slow speed, or, you know, the lower end of the medium speed corners, but still, I stayed in 2nd, and you get up to 3rd. As we come onto Rocky Road, this is where understeery cars really do get caught out if you may be a little bit too happy on the throttle. So that's why I may be tiptoeing, but believe me, at the time, this was me pushing as hard as I dared. But coming through the first of the tunnels there, and the second one, trying to get the power down, get it into 4th gear maybe, only for a short period because we're going to get it down to 2nd. Coming into the last corner, again, just hesitant getting the power down, and then you're going to give it the full beans down to the line, and it's going to be a time of 6 minutes 37.620, which I think that's a pretty respectable time, if I'm being honest with you. I think there's a possibility I maybe could get more out of it if I had more time and maybe a better understanding of how to set this thing up. But overall, I think that's a pretty good time. It's good enough to put it 3rd on our current leaderboard. So it's beaten the Porsche, the other Porsche that we've had on our time trial. And in terms of the actual time, unfortunately, because it falls into the same category as the Jaguar, it doesn't actually get a place on the proper leaderboards, which is really disappointing. And it still really annoys me the way they've done the time trial leaderboards here, because if the time had stood and it had sat on the leaderboard, then it would have been firmly 17th, which, given that there are no other Can-Am cars on there, it would make it the fastest Can-Am car on PS4 in the world, I believe. But again, at the same time, if someone has driven another car that is faster and they've done a time that's pretty quick, maybe quicker than mine, their time won't stand on the leaderboard. So there's a possibility it could be the quickest Can-Am car. It could be a possibility it's not. But you know, like I said, I think it's a pretty respectable time, and like I said, it puts it firmly 3rd on our leaderboard. But yeah, if you haven't tried it, guys, I highly suggest you do. It's a workout, and it'll bite you at every chance it gets, and you've got to tippy toe through certain sections. But once you find that sweet spot, once you kind of get it in the zone, it's very, very rewarding. A very, very rewarding car to drive. So I highly suggest you try it. And if you haven't picked up the DLC, then pick it up, because there's lots of other cars in there that are really, really good to drive as well. But yeah, guys, that's the end of today's video. So thank you everybody so much for watching. If you did enjoy this, you would like to see more Project Cars 2 or Hill Climb Monsters, or just general race content from myself, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments, guys, if there are any cars you would like to see me drive, or if you've actually tried the Porsche 917/10 on this hill climb course. Always happy to hear from you. But once again, guys, thank you everybody so much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace!